Senator Santorum, you won the Iowa caucus 4 years ago in 10 other states, but you failed to beat Mitt Romney for the nomination. And no one here tonight is going to question your conviction or for your love for country. But has your moment passed, Senator?
I would say the message that got us the win in Iowa and 10 other states against pretty overwhelming odds is the message that's going to deliver us in this election. You know, we didn't start out 4 years ago at the top of the heap. We were behind where we were today, but we stuck to our message. We stuck to the fact that Americans are tired of Washington corporate interests and Democrats who are interested in just politics and power, and they're looking for someone who's going to fight for them, looking for someone who's going to grow the manufacturing sector of our economy so those 74% of Americans who don't have a college degree or have a chance to rise again, someone who's going to stand up and be very clear with our enemies as to the lines they're going to draw and stand with them. I've got a track record. The reason I did so well last time is not just because of the vision. It's because I have a track record in Washington, D.C. of getting things done. Iran sanctions. The Iran sanctions that brought them to the table, those are sanctions that we put in place when I was in the United States Senate, and a whole host of other things that put me in a position of saying, I only have a great vision, but I can govern effectively in Washington.
Senator Santorum, you would argue you have one of the tougher positions on illegal immigration in the entire 17 candidate field at the moment. We often talk about this issue on the abstract level in Washington, D.C. But you know how it's being talked about in states like Iowa and New Hampshire among illegals in our country today, 11 million plus. And some are asking, what would you say to a child born and raised in America who could see their family broken apart by your policy?
My father was born in Italy, and shortly after he was born, my grandfather immigrated to this country. Under the laws of this country, he wasn't allowed to be with his father for 7 years. Spent the first 7 years of his life in fascist Italy under Benito Mussolini. Not a very pleasant place to be. I asked my dad after, obviously, I found out about this, and I said, didn't you resent America for not letting you be with your father in those formative and very threatening years? You know what he said to me? America was worth the wait. We're a country of laws, Bill. We're a country of laws, not of men, not of people who do whatever they want to do. I know we have a president who wants to do whatever he wants to do and take his pen and his phone and just tell everybody what he thinks is best. But the reason America is a great country, the reason is because our compassion is in our laws. And when we live by those laws and we treat everybody equally under the law, that's when people feel good about being Americans. And I put forth an immigration policy that is as strong in favor of the folks who are struggling in America the most than anybody else. It's the strongest pro-worker immigration plan. It says that after 35 million people have come here over the last 20 years, almost all of whom are unskilled workers, flattening wages, creating horrible opportunity, a lack of opportunities for unskilled workers. We're going to do something about reducing the level of immigration by 25%. We're going to be tough at the border. We're going to be tough on all of the illegal immigrants that everybody else in this field. We're going to be different. We're going to be actually out there trying to create a better life for hardworking Americans.
Senator Santorum, let's get back to the question at hand, which is whether or not Americans have become too reliant on assistance or too willing to take assistance. Do you believe that we need to change the culture in this country in terms of whether or not we should be encouraging people to get off of it and take the job when it's available? Some are able and not doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a 1-2 punch. Number one, we have to create better paying jobs. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We haven't. And that's the reason that I've said under my presidency, we'll create jobs and make America the #1 manufacturing country in the world. If we want to create jobs for the folks that you're talking about who are having trouble getting off government benefits, primarily because of their low skill level, there is no better way. It's worked for 100 years in America. Putting people back to work in manufacturing is it. I'm going to be introducing a plan which I call the 2020 Perfect Vision for America. It's a 20% flat rate tax. It'll take a blowtorch to the IRS. It will create a manufacturing juggernaut in this country. And you combine that with reforms of our welfare system. You're looking at the man who introduced and fought on the floor as a freshman senator and passed the Welfare Reform Act of 1996, over 2 President Clinton vetoes, got 70 votes in the United States Senate. Bipartisan issue. and I ended a federal entitlement. Never been done before, never been done since. What we need to do is take the rest of the federal entitlements, not just welfare, but food stamps and Medicaid and housing programs, and do the same thing we did with welfare, work requirements and time limits. That will change everything.
Next question on the U.S. Supreme Court. It's been 42 years, Senator Santorum, since Roe versus Wade, and many consider in this country to be a case of settled law. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage. Is that now settled law in America today?
It is not any more than Dred Scott was settled law to Abraham Lincoln, who in his first inaugural address said, it won't stand. And they went ahead and passed laws in direct contravention to a rogue Supreme Court. This is a rogue Supreme Court decision. Just like Justice Roberts said, there is no constitutional basis for the Supreme Court's decision. And I know something about this. One of the times the Supreme Court spoke that I thought they were acting outside of their authority was in a partial birth abortion case. You know, these Planned Parenthood tapes, what they're showing are partial birth abortions. Abortions being done where the baby's being delivered first to preserve those organs, and then they crush the skull. Well, the Supreme Court found a bill that I was the author of unconstitutional. What did I do? I didn't stop. I didn't say, oh, well, we lost. It's the law of the land. We worked together, the House and Senate, under my leadership, and we passed a bill, and we said, Supreme Court, you're wrong. We're a co-equal branch of the government. We have every right to be able to stand up and say what is constitutional. We passed a bill, bipartisan support, and the Supreme Court, they sided with us. Sometimes it just takes someone to lead and stand up to the court.
All right, Senator Santorum?
Just ditto that. We're going to suspend, I've said this for 4 years, we're going to suspend and repeal every executive order, every regulation that costs American jobs and is impacting our freedom. And second, the First Amendment Defense Act, which is protecting religious liberty. If it's not passed by then, which I suspect it won't because the president will veto it, I will institute an executive order to make sure the people of faith are not being harassed and persecuted by the federal government for standing up for their religious beliefs.
We're talking about tapping into historic levels of leadership and lifting the nation in this kind of way that we're discussing. So, Senator Santorum, how would you do it?
I came to Washington, D.C. in 1990. That sounds like a long time ago. It was 25 years ago, and I came by defeating a Democratic incumbent. I came as a reformer. I started the Gang of Seven, and it led to the overtaking of the 40-year Democratic rule of Congress because I stood up to the old boy network in Washington, D.C., because I believed that Washington was not the solution, that Washington was the problem, just like Ronald Reagan said. I was a child of Ronald Reagan. And I went there, and for 16 years, I fought the insiders and was able to get things done. That's the difference. We need to elect someone who will stand with the American people, who understands its greatness, who understands what an open economy and freedom is all about, but at the same time has a record of being able to get things done in Washington like we've never seen before. Reforms, everything from moral and cultural issues to economic issues. Those of you who have health savings accounts. Health savings accounts was something that we introduced. It's a private sector solution that believes in freedom, not Obamacare, that believes in government control. Those are the things we brought, and we were able to get things done. If you want someone who's not going to divide Washington but gets things done, then you should make me your president.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Santorum.
I'll tell you how optimistic I am about America. Karen and I have 7 children. You don't have 7 children and bring them into this world if you're not optimistic about the future of this country. I am, but people are upset, and they're upset for a reason about the future of this country. Donald Trump actually seized on it when he talked about immigration. And I think the reason he did is because immigration is sort of an example of what's broken and what's wrong in Washington, D.C. You see, you have one side, the Democrats, and with immigration, all they care about is votes. They don't care about American workers. They just care about bringing as many people in so they can get as many votes as they can. On the other side, you have so many Republicans, and what do they care about? Helping business make profits. But there's nobody out there looking out for the American worker. I'm looking out for the American worker. I'm the only one in this stage who has a plan that's actually going to reduce immigration, actually going to do something to help the American worker. And you combine that with a plan to make manufacturing this country #1 in manufacturing. You've got someone who's going to help revitalize and give hope to America. We're the places that is the most hopeless today. That's why I ask for your support for president.
All right, Senator, thank you.